Hey smokers, Draga1 here, and today we're going to be investigating LEGO Racer's soundtrack files. Before I started this project, I figured that the music was in some sort of proprietary MIDI format, possibly some DirectX shenanigans or something that I had heard about years ago. But what I came to find out is it's actually just PCM audio. I know, it sounds like MIDI, but it's PCM. Well, that was easy, right? It's just the Lego Island video all over again. Well, not really. First, I took a look at the Rock Raiders United forums. They have done extensive research into each file type used in the game, and are committed to extracting them and potentially replacing them for modding purposes. I didn't have to look very long to find out that the music files are the TUN files in the root of the game directory, which probably stand for tune. Well, that was easy. Their file names are written in plain English, and if you're familiar with the game, you'll know exactly which one goes to which track. Thanks to the Rock Raiders United forums, I found out they can be imported into Audacity using the Vox AD-PCM encoding when raw importing one of the files. It works, but the result is super distorted, and clips like crazy. If you so much as dare not to use Vox AD-PCM, you might still hear the song somehow, but it will be ear rape beyond all comprehension. One encoding type has a fixed volume and will ear rape you no matter what, regardless of volume level. So the real question now is, how to either properly import this, or properly convert the file into something usable. Most tracks are around 1 minute in length, and are roughly around 1.5 megabytes. One lead I found on the forums was some dude who was able to mod LEGO Racers with custom music, but not cleanly extract the existing music. Apparently he used a command line program called SOX, which has a buttload of audio conversion options supporting a hell of a lot of formats. According to SOX's documentation, the only conversion options that seem to support AD-PCM in any form are Vox and IMA formats. Apparently you can use custom raw import settings, but that didn't really want to cooperate with me. If someone knows the exact command I need to use here, let me know. SOX can successfully convert any tune file using the Vox or IMA encoder to WAV, but the distortion issue still exists. However, it sounds better and is less distorted than the Audacity import. I did some further digging and found out that older versions of Winamp can play back a tune file if it's renamed with a Vox extension. But it plays back at 6,000 to 8,000 samples a second, which is way too slow. 6,000 to 8,000 samples per second is default for Vox, but the Vox standard doesn't necessarily have a de facto sampling rate for each file. That's up for the user to decide at time of recording, and to properly play it back. Since the Vox format is headerless PCM, the proper sampling rate must be provided. In this case, LEGO Racers music likes to be played back at 44,100 Hz. And I can't tell Winamp to play it at a different sampling rate. This would have been nice if it worked, because Winamp lets you output directly to an audio file. Also, while I was researching all this, I found out there's an audio file type called FAP, Ensoniq Paris file format. Fascinating. The full description of a Vox file in the SOX documentation is as follows. Vox, a headerless file of dialogic OKI AD-PCM audio data, commonly comes with the extension Vox. This AD-PCM data has 12-bit precision packed into only 4 bits. Note, some early dialogic hardware does not always reset the AD-PCM encoder at the start of each Vox file. This can result in clipping and/or DC offset problems when it comes to decoding the audio. Whilst little can be done about the clipping, a DC offset can be removed by passing the decoded audio through a high-pass filter. That's really all I needed to know. The one problem I'm running into has been well documented here. All my research points to SOX being the de facto answer to properly converting this file, and that same research points to the dialogic AD-PCM having some issues with clipping depending on how the original file was recorded. So we might just be screwed here. It's possible that the LEGO Racers devs had a hacky solution to saving disk space by exploiting the AD-PCM format and going off standard with how the data was encoded. If this is what they did, then the game engine is the only piece of software that can properly decode this audio. Vox, or Dialogic 80 PCM, was originally only supposed to be used for telephony applications using much lower sampling rates than 44,100 like LEGO Racers wants to use. It uses a lossy compression scheme that's optimized for voice, not music, and it's normally monaural only. Throughout researching this for multiple hours, I didn't realize that the LEGO Racers soundtrack is actually stereo. Now, you might not realize this because the original musician didn't fully take advantage of stereo when he wrote the tracks. So it can be hard to tell that the music is actually stereo because so many instruments are center panned, but it most certainly is stereo. So since Vox can only work in mono by its standard, it's almost proof they did some sort of custom encoding work here. Or I just can't wrap my head around this goddamn motherfucker. Now, to broaden our scope, the LEGO Racers soundtrack sounds exactly the same on the PlayStation 1 version of the game, since the original audio that makes up the game was PCM to start with. So that means our 1-minute music files are exactly the same in both versions of the game, just using different audio formats. Zophar's domain hosts the raw XA PlayStation audio files along with some utilities to play them back and convert them. Jackpot. There was a bit of trial and error here, and at some point I actually had to burn the PlayStation 1 version of LEGO Racers to a CD. Lucky I did that because that was the only way I could get my virtual machine to see the disc, but trying to rip the music still didn't work. So I dug through Zophar's domain some more and found another handful of utilities that can get the job done. Eventually I found XA2Wave, which is a DOS program. After using it, it successfully converted the PlayStation XA file from Zophar's website to the highest quality audio possible. 37,800 Hz, 16-bit stereo. Jesus. However, that really strange sampling rate is apparently the standard for PlayStation music or something. But I don't think I care at this point. I don't care if I can't get it to 44,100 Hz. The quality here might even be higher with the PlayStation version because the XA file sizes are larger per song than the tune files from the PC version. They're about twice as large, and when converted to WAV, the WAV files are about 8 times as large as the files in the PC version. Now again, each song is roughly the same length at around 60 seconds, which means that each song is about the same file size across the board. I was also able to extract some sound effects, so that's cool too. But you could say I sorta cheated because I used Zophar's XA files and converted them to WAV. If I actually wanted to extract the game audio directly from the original PlayStation game disc, I need to muck around with yet another utility, similar to XA2Wave, XAEX, which is actually sort of hard to use because it expects MSCDEX to be installed and uses it to, I assume, poke the CD drive at the hardware level to extract XA files out of various types of files that exist on the root of any given PlayStation disc. These files are not usable in their current form because they're packed up in some proprietary way. XAEX just unpacks it. However, that didn't work for me, and I had to bounce through 2 more utilities on my Windows 98 machine because I just couldn't get this stuff to work on my Windows 10 rig. Finally, PSXMC saves the day, successfully extracting the soundtrack to WAV. Heh. Wouldn't that have been nice? My scripted video legitimately has a constant string of problems just like my hour-long ramble fests. What the hell? Well, what ended up happening was the WAV files did get extracted with all the niceness, except each file is only 8 kilobytes. This probably works a lot better if you have the original game disc and not a bin queue you got off some website. But it all doesn't matter because Zophar's domain saves the day again, providing the working XA files and MP3 versions if you don't want to deal with all this shit. So to recap, the music sounds like MIDI, but it's actually PCM. It's contained in a shitty format on PC and a good format on PS1. And they pretty much sound exactly the same. And that's it. The mystery stopped there. Entirely. I mean, this was like my absolute favorite game when I was a kid. I spent so much time in it. I remember stressing through my homework so that when I got done I could play it. I spent so much time in it, and the music files are pretty much baked into my brain. I was hoping there was some little nugget of awesome behind the music, like I'd be able to decompile the weird MIDI and see all the notes or something. Well, since this is kind of disappointing and arguably a huge waste of time, let me take a moment to share a little story with you. And it's kind of embarrassing. The year was probably 2000. I was playing LEGO Racers that I got for Christmas the year before. I can still remember building my first car on Christmas morning. But some time had passed since then, and I was stuck on either Circuit 3 or Circuit 6. I was at wit's end and helpless. I noticed that in the game settings there was an option for setting the number of competing racers in single races to 0 if so desired, making a win guaranteed. So I got up, climbed onto my dad's bed, and looked out the window and gazed at the night sky. I picked a random ball of hot gas and made a wish upon it. And I'm not joking. I wished that the menu option for number of opponents also existed for circuit race. No, not $1 million or infinite VHS tapes or every Lego set from Lego Island. But instead I wished for a fucking menu option that would make my dumbass win no matter what. If that's not some cheap, depressing shit, I don't know what is. In another story from that time period, which would better explain my passion for this music, back then I would pretend to be a radio DJ and record different tracks from Lego Racers, Lego Island, and other games, with some commentary and commercials onto cassette tape. I still have some of the tapes, and I should probably dump these on SoundCloud or something. Good God. So yeah, I'm obsessed with this music, even though arguably it's not that great. Wow, this is my life now. Good Lord, what has happened to the past 20 goddamn years? Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time.